This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary. Come to talk to you today about imperfection. And here on the southern tip of Africa, Cape Agulhas, it is just perfect. It's beautiful, it's perfect. The smell of the penguin poo doesn't bother me because it's perfect. The bits of what my son calls apple spray on the ground because their poo looks like apple spray doesn't bother me. It's all part of the perfection. How we as human beings like things to be the way we want them. And so we anthropomorphize this perfectness, this perfection that we expect from the world, from each other, from ourselves. And somehow we never quite live up to the perfection that we wish for. We never find others able to live up to the perfection that we hold within our minds. And it causes one to question the idea of perfection. Just what is this perfection? When we look at the negative powers for a moment, we consider how one can judge other people, one can look down on other people, one can be a bit of a bigot. We can all be a bigot at some time. We probably all have been at some point in our lives. And if you want to look at the source of bigotry, where it comes from perfectionism. I used to be a perfectionist. Much of my life I was a perfectionist. Even when I thought I wasn't a perfectionist, I was one. I'm probably still one, probably haven't realized it. And this comes from wanting to improve oneself, which is a natural instinct, a natural impulse, to want to do better, to want to be better, to never be satisfied with what you've done because you know you can do better. And that is quite an important part of the drive necessary to improve oneself in life. Whatever it is that one wants to improve in, whether it's the way one lives, one's health, one's lifestyle, one's attributes, abilities. If one wants to be a better runner, if one wants to be better at mathematics or have a greater understanding of things, one will contemplate more deeply and study and meditate harder. Whatever you want to focus on, the improvement thereof is coming from this impulse. However, this impulse can become static, crystallized, locked into the psyche. And when it does, we start becoming perfectionists. We start expecting perfection from ourselves, from each other. I've got to be so careful not to expect perfection from my little boy. And sometimes I catch myself expecting more from him. And got to remind myself continually not to do so. Please don't bump my arm, Joshua. It's holding my camera. And so we have to learn to accept. Acceptance. This is the medicine or the balm of healing that can wash away the imperfections of perfectionism, as it were. For nothing in this world is ever going to hold up to our idea or ideal of perfection. And so we can find ourselves unhappy with the lack of perfection, or we can seek to understand the perfection that's already present. See, there's two different ways of looking at this. And when one seeks to understand that the universe is in a state of perfect mathematics, that causality, that karma, and all of the laws of physics are in perfect harmony and everything is happening exactly the way it's meant to happen, that's when we start to appreciate the perfection. When you're walking and you step in dog crud, that's perfect. I was told when I was a child that it was lucky to step in dog poo. Did any of you hear this? What is that about? Well, maybe the reason it's lucky is because it's teaching you about how perfect the imperfection is within the universe. And maybe that is the source of luck. Because when you can recognize that the universe is perfect in its imperfection, bless you, that's when you start to engage with gratefulness. And gratefulness starts to become a magnetic effect that attracts towards oneself all sorts of positive influences and effects. And it's this grateful attitude towards life that we can consider as the power of luck. Those that are very grateful tend to be very lucky. And there's this powerful resonance. So for those of you that wish to improve your luck, become more grateful. That's an old shamanic secret. The shaman understands how important gratefulness is and how fundamental it is to actually remain in the state of gratefulness. For gratefulness is the mother of humility. And humility inspires the heart to seek beauty and to realize that the small things are as important as the great things. and that the balance and harmonies of life are fundamental, and that all parts of the whole are equally important. There is no one thing which matters more than another. If you look at the fundamentals of life and of the universe and the way in which it's created, the little microbes that live in the soil are as important for the tree in order to produce a fruit, so that the mammals can survive. And so we are dependent upon microbes, and without them we couldn't live. There's something to consider. The scale of importance. We think of ourselves and our lives as important. We think of germs as unimportant. Well, there's something to consider with all the fertilizers we're pouring into the soil, the way in which we're farming with the throwing salts at the problem. We're starting to run out of nitrogen. It's a big problem. So understanding how the small things are fundamentally important is understanding the relevance of relativity, and how the relativity of being holds perfection in terms of the mathematics, and that the perfect mathematics of life is expressed in all things. This is the golden spiral mathematical ratio. We've discovered it, we've known it. The ancient Greeks knew it. They knew it in India. The ancient Egyptians knew it. We've known this since the dawn of time, it seems. And so this fundamental mathematics of life is what generates the spiral of perfection. And the spiral of perfection is present in all things. It's present in all situations. It's present within everybody. There is no one person more perfect than another person, if you look at the scale of being. It's all about the human cognitive functions and the human judgments, the anthropomorphizing of what we feel within ourselves and what we think, what we judge. See, judgment. Judgment becomes the engine through which perfection is gauged. And it's our judgment that's normally skew. And it's our judgment that normally creates the problems for us. It's our judgment that creates the unhappiness and the sadness and the pain. For we judge an experience to be positive, or we judge an experience to be negative. We thus imply emotional states to the thoughts attached to the experience. And then it becomes what it's judged to be. This is the nature of reality. We're living in a spiral of thought. The spiral of thought is bound by the concept of emotion. And the concept of emotion is the essence of how the anthropomorphizing effects work. Because there's a feedback loop. Everything in life is a feedback loop. What you do, you get. What you get, you give. What you have, you lose. And what you lose, you have. And so in life, we move around in circles, like the sun, the moon, the planet, the stars, the electrons, everything. I'm seeing a beautiful little bird crossing my path. From a shamanic perspective, this is an omen. And to understand what this bird is doing and to understand what is happening, this is the most perfect story being told to me right now. It speaks to me about the positivity of what's to come in the next 3 weeks. And so we can understand that nature and life is a perfect story happening around you. All that needs to change is one's attitude in order to see the perfection, in order to understand the language of nature, in order to understand the beauty that's being offered to us, and being able to grasp the truth and the growth that's within, being able to expand beyond our previous limitations of consciousness and of thought and of mind. This is the key. This is the fundamental meanings behind why we're here. And understanding this brings one to a state of humility, brings one to a state of love, because beauty fills the heart. So judgment is a two-edged sword, as we've heard. And the sword of judgment, it cuts the wielder as much as it cuts those that it will wield it against. And so causality is perfect in its mathematical application. The law of karma is perfect. It doesn't let anybody off the hook. And so we got to understand that the nature of this reality isn't what it seems to be. The separation from you to me isn't what it seems to be. We're all one being experiencing a myriad of experiences through different eyes. And when we start to appreciate this, we start to notice why perfection is what it is. For the act of one is the experience of another. And this is something quite fundamental to grasp when one is considering the deeper aspects of the creation and how this anthropomorphic projection works and why it is the way it is. The real thing that we got to watch out for is denial. For when we become perfectionists, we are normally in denial of our own perfection. and we're normally in denial of each other's perfection. And so we want to judge each other and put each other down, put ourselves down. And this is really, shall we say, the negative effect of being a perfectionist, the negativity of perfection as it is conceived in terms of a human experience and judgment. So I hope you can take something from this little video. Hope you can walk out of your door today and realize that the world is perfect. Even when things aren't going the way you want them to, they're going perfectly. There's a deeper lesson in all of this. There's a deeper revelation occurring around you. And all you need to do is humble yourself to experience the reality without judging it and observe what it is that's going on within you as a consequence and what's driving the state of reality around you. For we attract reality. Back to the gratefulness. Good luck, bad luck. We attract what's happening. We manifest it through the sphere of our consciousness, through the fields of thought and emotion that we bind around our bodies and our forms, or shall we say the field of thought and emotions that we bind our bodies through and in. Probably a better way of conceiving it. Through this activity, the anthropomorphic is working all the time, and we are attracting and projecting into the universe. The etheric currents and the astral currents are always at work. The Ida and the Pingala are always bringing and taking, receiving and giving. This is the part of life that is the essence of breathing. You have to breathe in order to breathe out. You have to breathe out in order to breathe in. For breath is the mystery of life. And to understand how breath is the mystery of life is to understand how this cosmic drama plays out in our heads and in our lives and in our worlds. And that is all just essentially ourselves experiencing ourselves in each other. So next time you want to be a perfectionist, remember, you are yourself experiencing another self, your same self in another body, and that all things are projections of yourself and that you are a projection of all other things. And when you start to grasp this, you might be able to see the grain of sand within the whole universe and look deep into that whole universe and see it's that same grain of sand staring back at you. And notice the quantum entangling process is more than just physics. It involves thought, emotion, and soul. This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary, sharing a few thoughts. Hope you have an absolutely gorgeous day. Be productive, be grateful, and don't judge. And remember, the world's already perfect. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.